A very good morning to everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning for our monthly meeting. Okay, so today I would like to present uh, together with our in-house behavior therapist to talk about the challenging behavior with children with autism. Okay, so today our invited guest, our behavior therapist. Her name is Shamira. So she'll be sharing a bit about challenging behavior. Okay, so next, okay, these are our upcoming workshop. We have it on December 14th, which is next Tuesday. Ask Charlie anything. We are going to talk about ADHD with our in-house clinical psychologist, Liana. And then next we have another workshop, which is on the 18th of December, where we're going to talk about get ready for school with our special needs teacher, as well as our reading therapist, Miss Serene. And then the last workshop of the month will be about sensory stimulation technique with our in-house occupational therapist, Miss Alia. Okay, so before I start the workshop, let me just introduce briefly about Mind Story. So in Mind Story, we provide services for those who have academic delays, sensory delays, developmental delays, behavioral and emotional difficulties, as well as physical delays. So our team consists of academic support, which is special need teacher, behavior therapist, clinical psychologist, me myself will be doing counseling, occupational therapy, reading therapy, as well as speech and language therapies. Okay, so you can contact us at this number you can email us. We provide free consultation. For those who parents are looking for special needs services, feel free to contact us. And then you can check us out at Facebook. We have a page, Mind Story, as well as a community group. You can find us at LinkedIn, on our website, as well as Instagram. Okay, so now I would like to invite Miss Shamira to share the workshop today. Morning, Miss Shamira.
Hi, good morning.
So if you have any questions for those who will attend our morning workshop, you can just comment at the Facebook comment box. Then I can share it with Miss Shamira. All right.
Okay, all right, so I can start now. So basically today we're going to talk about understanding challenging behavior in children with autism, and at the very end of the whole sharing session, there'll be ways to manage it. And before I move deeper into this topic, I have to make everyone understand that challenging behavior does not only happen in children with autism. Even developing neurotypical kids also engage in challenging behavior. Those who are 2 years old, 3 years old, you might observe they have temper tantrum or not listening to your instruction. So this whole sharing is also for those parents or teachers who dealing with such children. Uh, Before I move further, I have also want to make it clear that though some of these things seems very simple, you can do it at home. Please understand that they are not easy to be carried out. Some of the intervention you will need help from professional, so you can tailor the intervention to the kid themselves. So hopefully after at the very end of the sharing, you will get the idea of what is challenging behavior and when you should get help and what kind of help you should get. So moving on, uh, at the at the end of this sharing session, hopefully you will learn what is challenging behavior and what are types of different kind of challenging behavior. Also understanding the behavior themselves, like why the behavior is happening, what's the reason behind the behavior. Moving on into the sharing, will uncover some behavioral intervention that you may use depending on why that certain behavior happened. Also, I'll be listing some strategies, simple strategies that you can do at home. But again, I'm reminding you, some of the behavior might need professional help for you to tailor the strategies for that kids. So, uh, so we're gonna look into what is a challenging behavior. So when I say challenging behavior, what comes to your mind? Like maybe behavior, like maybe you right now you straight away think something big like aggression, but what about crying? Is crying a challenging behavior? Is refusing to eat at the table is challenging behavior? So forward is I'm going to tell you what is a challenging definition, what is considered a challenging behavior. Because if you think about it, crying itself is not a challenging behavior. But if the kid is crying for a whole 1 hour while kicking everything around them, then that is challenging. So by definition, challenging behavior is a behavior in such intensity or duration or frequency that threatens an individual quality of life. It's also threatened their physical safety and other people around them, which may causes reaction such as reaction from other people, restrictive reaction, aversive reaction, and also may result in exclusion from a certain environment. That sounds like a whole lot of things to process, but I already break it down for you guys. So the first one is it limits the person's ability to be a part of a setting. This means that that challenging behavior may stop this individual from being a setting that benefits them, for example, from being in school. So challenging behavior may stop or may restrict this individual to be in school or being a part of society or activities, or even restrict them from having a meaningful relationship. For example, a mother who has a trouble dealing with the challenging behavior of a kid, they may have a bit of struggle in terms of having meaningful relationship that may benefit the kids and the mom as well. The next one is it causes disruption to environment. Some of these challenging behavior, for example, throwing items, pulling furniture at home, for example, kids that would pull television out of the cabinets. So it causes disruption to the environment that they are in, which leads to the point number three, which it causes harm to that person themselves and also other people around them. For example, that I give just now, the disruption to the environment, they pull TV out of the cabinet. There's a high chance that the cabinet may fall into them. So it causes harm to that person, also other people around them. If there's other kid around them, if there's another adult around them. Other way that harm is, for example, a kid that engage in challenging behavior, which is self-injurious, like they bite themselves, that's definitely causing harm to themselves. So this, if any behavior that has these three characteristics, we can simply say is a challenging behavior, and it's best to get help as soon as possible so the kid can have a meaningful quality of life, and also they can be in environment that that allows them to learn, such as being in school, being in public setting, or even being around the people to have a very quality relationship. So we already talked about what is challenging behavior. So I guess now you have a rough, you have the idea of how a challenging behavior looks like, which I'm going to show you some of the examples. First one is self-injurious behavior. So you can see the picture. It's really obvious that this kid has a biting mark. So it's harmful for, if it happened one time, it's just a mark. Imagine it happened in a very huge intensity and it happened frequently, then it's definitely going to cause some wound there, and it's going to disrupt her daily life. So self-harm is actually any physical act that is directed towards oneself that cause harm. Is a harm that they cause to themselves. It can be biting, it can be hair pulling. They may pull their hair, or even head banging. Head banging is when they bang their head on hard surfaces. It can be like this kid, he bangs on the floor. It can be on the wall. It can be banging head on the table. Next example of challenging behavior is we call aggression. Aggression is like injury is a physical act that cause harm to their own self. This one is they cause harm to other person or people around them. So physical aggression, for example, spitting, spit at other kid, or even shouting or yelling at them, or kicking. Aggression is not limited to just physical aggression. There's also verbal aggression, which is the interaction is to another individual is threatening or is intimidating to another person. For example, like I give shouting. That's an example of verbal aggression. Another kind of verbal aggression is cursing, calling names, and such. Next one is property destruction. This one is for the characteristic number 2, which is causing destruction in environment. So property destruction in participating in activity that result in destruction or disfigurement of property, like the one that I give example is pulling TV out of the cabinet, or they might take another furniture and throw it across the room. So that causes disruption to that property as well as the environment. Next one is the misuse. Property misuse is not using the property in the way it's supposed to. Like, for example, simple example in school, when kid is sitting at his own place, just doing work, teacher asks him to do work, but instead of doing work, he start breaking all the pencils, tearing all the textbooks, kicking the table, his table. Next one is dropping or flopping on the floor. This is simply collapse from standing or sitting, just literally laying on the floor, refusing to move, and it is in an uncontrollable manner. It's, you cannot make him stand up, or he doesn't want to stand up, he just probably just lay there, and it is not in context of the activity. What it means by not in context of activity, if the activity requires them to be on the floor, then that is appropriate, but this one is just collapsing out of context and in uncontrollable manner. Next one, this one happened pretty frequent, and this one does not cause harm particularly, like a direct harm to a person, but in a long run or in a larger scale causes, for example, elopement. Elopement, running away, wandering, is leaving certain place or a designated place. For example, if a kid supposed to be home, surely they're supposed to be home at night, and they have behavior of going out from the house without informing the parents, and it's not at the appropriate time. In this situation, it's at night, and without the permission of the parents, they go out alone on their own. So it's definitely cause harm in a way that is dangerous for them to be out there alone. So this is a kind of challenging behavior. Next one is emotional outburst or tantrum. So emotional outburst or tantrum is actually combination of all those listed behavior, it consists of two or more. So it can be elopement and property destruction when they have emotional outbursts. So that's what considered emotional outbursts. And next one is non-compliance and defiance. This is the children's failure to respond to an instruction within the allocated time. Means when you give instruction, you expect them to respond within certain seconds. You probably want them to respond immediately, but non-compliant behavior is when they do not respond to it, probably by ignoring your instruction altogether, or they probably just continue with what you're doing. And so now we know this challenging behavior, and surely we want to know how to cope with this behavior, how to manage this behavior. So in working in this area, we already observe things that does not work when this behavior happen. For example, when you get mad at the children or trying to talk and reason when the behavior occur, especially with kids that is their speech is not that developed yet, or even their comprehension, their expressive language, their receptive language. So trying to reason or talk to them is not going to work. It's like trying to do something impossible. So there are ways to cope with that behavior. There are some strategies that we can use, which I will talk later. So getting mad at the children also does not work. In the situation full of behavior or maybe emotional outburst, tantrum, adding to it will not help the situation. What we want to do is to manage the situation so it's safe for everyone. Mind you, because challenging behavior can be destructive to the environment and also harmful for the kids and yourselves as parent or teacher. So you don't want to escalate the whole situation. You want to manage it in the best way possible. So getting mad and trying to reason with them definitely, or most of the time, does not work. Next is warning the consequence again and again without following through. I believe this happens most of the time, where parents, for example, their kids, they want their kids to stop playing games on iPad, and they will say, "Oh, if you don't stop, then you won't get to play outside later." And then the kid did not stop, and then they just repeat the same thing again and again. But when the kids stop, they did not follow through the consequence that they already established. This can risk two things. The kid will learn that it's okay to just behave that way. Secondly, you will lose the instruction control, which you will lose the kid listening to you. So it'll be harder for you the next time. So warning them without following through the consequence will not work in long run as well. And next is making the consequence even bigger, even better, even harsher, one after another, will definitely not work and not benefit any other people in the long run. If you just keep on making the consequence even bigger, you won't teach the kid anything, and it will just make you tired to just keep on thinking of how to make the consequence even greater over time. And it's important to not remove motivation for the kids to behave the right way. It's important to keep them motivated to wanting to behave the right way. And lastly, repeating the same strategy that you think it might work, it won't work that way. Repeat the same thing. So if you try a certain strategy for a few times, it clearly doesn't work, then it's time to move on to another strategy. So now that we know this thing doesn't work, and I can say this thing is pretty instinctive to us. When the behavior happens, it's really easy for us to react to react certain way that we already know, or to get mad at the child, to be so reactive, to punish the kids. So if that doesn't work, then what works? What work is surely what we call behavior intervention. They comes in many names. You may heard of a behavior therapy, ABA therapy. They're all in the same cluster. They uses applied behavior analysis, which is ABA. And I understand when you hear ABA, most of the time people think of a repeated trial, one-on-one, intense therapy session. But you also have to understand in behavior intervention, there's a it's based on science of how people learn and changing behavior. So a part of teaching those one-to-one session, there are also principles or ways or strategies that can be used to modify certain behavior. For example, modify challenging behavior to a more desirable, appropriate behavior. And mind you that behavior intervention, ABA, is a #1 research supported strategy to improve the quality of life, to teach skills and improve problem behavior. So in ABA, there's two main characteristics, or two main things that I would say the main machine of a behavior intervention, that is to upskill the kid or teach a skill that replace or disrupt the problem behavior. This is what we call intentional teaching of the appropriate behavior, so that they can function well in settings, like they can function at home, so they can be in school safely, and kids can be safe just to play with them, and they can have a functional relationship with other people, or if not, with their parents and family. And a part of beside increasing the skill, at the same time, it will decrease the challenging behavior. So there are also intervention or strategies to use to, to, to reduce the behavior when it happens. So why is it so important to understand the reason why it's the behavior? Now that we understand the behavior, how it looks like, and how to consider a behavior is a challenging behavior. Now moving on to understand why is it so important to understand why that the behavior happened, why that behavior take place, the reason behind that behavior. So understanding the behavior will enable you to observe or see the behavior pattern. So what's so important about understanding the behavior pattern? It allows you to identify the situation that may trigger the behavior in which the behavior is high likely to happen. So you would be ready to support the kids, to provide an environment, an enriched environment in which they can still function and not trigger the challenging behavior. It also, we can identify the consequences that motivate the child to encourage desirable behavior, the behavior that, the appropriate behavior that we would want to see. And lastly is by understanding why a behavior happened, the function behind the behavior, it gives us a way to understand what skill is this kid lacking of, so we can equip them with certain skill that can help them to function well in this environment. So moving on to the major part of the sharing session, which is why the behavior happened, why it persists, why it happened again and again and again. So it happened again and again. It happened frequently because it's paying off. They get what they want. They don't have to communicate. They don't have to use the word to say what they want. They can just behave certain way and they still get what they want. And mind you, behavior is a type of communication. The way they communicate is through the behavior, because it could be the lack of skill to use appropriate communication, or simply they just don't know how to do it appropriately. They don't know what is expected of them. So ABA, behavior intervention, aim to teach them this skill, which at the same time would reduce the problem behavior. So in behavior analysis, the function of behavior can be deduced into 4 different functions, which are attention. That is this certain behavior serve to get others people attention or interaction. For example, a kid suddenly cry when she was playing, and then the mom attends to her. She will learn that she just have to cry and mom will be here. So that's behavior to communicate attention. And next is tangible. Tangible is anything that you can hold. So a behavior that serve to get something, an item, toy, or food. They want something. Third one is escape or avoidance. You may also see avoidance in, if you look up in internet, escape also known as avoidance. Escape is the function serve, the behavior serve function to get away from any activities or any demands or a situation that they don't want to be in, or they want something to be removed from them. So that's escape, to remove or to avoid something that they don't like or they don't prefer. And 4 is automatic reinforcement. Sorry, I had that wrong. So automatic reinforcement is something that make them feel good, something that make them feel physically good, or it relieves them from something that feels bad. This one is not influenced by their environment, it's mostly what's inside. For example, we also do this when we're nervous. You probably find yourself shaking your leg, or when you're bored, you will find yourself clicking your pen. There's no there's no reason to it. There's no reason to either get attention or to get anything that you want, or it's not a reason to escape from activity that you hate or you don't like. It just feel good. So we're gonna dive deeper into understanding this function using a tool. I would say the powerful tool to understand reason behind a behavior. And it's pretty simple. You can definitely do it at home. It's called ABC chart. Yes, it is as easy as ABC. So what ABC stands for? Well, ABC chart is a tool to help you determine the function of a behavior. Through this chart, you will able to see the pattern of the behavior. You can also see the pattern. So when it happens, with who, when it happens, and also you can see, most importantly, the function of the behavior. So the first one, antecedents, easy. Anything that happened before the behavior. So when I say that, you might think like it's a whole chunk of things can happen before the behavior, but what I mean is immediately what happened before the behavior. And 3 things that really important that you might want to take note of when you writing down antecedent is when it happens, where it happened, and who's there. So when it's happened, will inform you the pattern of the behavior. For example, when you do this ABC chart for, let's say, for 1 whole week, and then you realize that this behavior only happened in the morning, so it gives you more insight of understanding why the behavior happened or why it happened. Some behavior may happen in school but not at home. So that's why it's important to note where it happens and who is there. Also, again, example behavior that happened when the child is with the mom, probably different when the child is with the father, because the father might have a more instructional control, a more control over the situation. So it's very important to take note of this tree when you write in antecedent. Maybe that will give it will guide you. It will make it easier for you to know what happened before the behavior. So the B in ABC chart is behavior. Behavior is behavior of your concern. You can't take a clump of behavior and put it under this behavior. So it will be hard for you to observe. It will be hard for you to identify the behavior. So it is important for you to just pick one behavior that you really concerned. For example, a child hitting his head. So hitting his head would be the behavior of concern. One thing that you might want to take note is how long it happened, the intensity or the duration. And lastly is the consequence. Consequence is anything that happened after the behavior. When we hear consequence, a lot of people think of a negative one, for example, punishment. So it does not work like that in behavior intervention. Consequence means anything that happened after the behavior. It can be something positive, it can be something negative, it can be something that is given to the kids, or it can mean something that is taken away from the kid. So that's consequence. Uh, Next, I will show you a few examples. Those who's watching this live, we can do together identifying the ABC of a situation, so we can identify the function of the behavior. And next, we will try to see the strategies that we can use for that specific function of a behavior. First one, look at Joe. If you happen to know some Joes in your life, or you are dealing with a Joe right now, so this definitely for you, and you might want to pay attention with this one. So Joe will not get off his iPad without throwing tantrum. We're not talking about 1 minute tantrum. We're talking about a full-blown 15 minutes struggle to keep iPad with him. So what is the antecedent, what is the behavior here, and what is the consequence? So it is important to take note of the context itself. Where is the mother asking him? Is it after he play iPad for a whole 1 hour? Surely a kid, after they engage with device for 1 hour and you try to ask for them, that's like the recipe for some behavior. So that's a good thing to take note, how long he has been engaging with the iPad and who's asking from him. And this situation, he's playing iPad. Mom said, "You played too long already. It's time to stop playing." So Joe throw tantrum. He cries. He's refused to give, and he's shouting. So what happened when he does that behavior? Mom let him have his iPad back. What does this teach Joe? He can just throw tantrum and he will get iPad back. So, what's the function of this behavior? So it is tangible. Tangible is when he wants something. So it's obvious that he wants to have the iPad back. So it's tangible. So he does everything to just get the iPad back. What can the mom do? So if you find yourself in this situation, you need to think. I don't want this behavior to happen. I don't want him to throw tantrum. I don't want him to cry. I don't want him to kick, to pull iPad from my hand, struggling to get the iPad. If you find yourself don't want this to happen, take a minute and ask yourself, what do you expect, or how do you expect them to behave? What is the appropriate behavior that you expect from them? So after identifying the reason behind or the function of the behavior, it's important to understand or to ask yourself what is expected from them. What is the skills that the kid needs to prevent this problem behavior from happening, or so they can request appropriately the next time. So As for tangible, some of the strategies that you can use visual schedule, which is you can give them a clear timetable picture in which when they can play iPad. This will inform them or make them prepare themselves when they can play and when to stop. Also, when you're about to request for the iPad back, you may use strategy in which reminding them how many times left for their iPad time. This would reduce the likelihood that the problem behavior will occur. Next is definitely replacement behavior. This is why I tell you that you have to think, what do you expect the kid? Because in some situation, when you ask iPad, you expect them to straight away give you without any resistance. You expect them to give iPad calmly. So the replacement behavior here would be them being able to tolerate you saying no to iPad time, or even you can teach them to request for more iPad time. Or third one is negotiate. Maybe it's okay for the kid to like, mom can just have 5 more minutes of iPad time. That's appropriate too. So it really depends on what kind of behavior are you expecting from them. Like we cannot just take away that problem behavior without replacing it with anything. What will happen? They probably find a new challenging behavior to use so they can communicate that they want the iPad again. So it's important to find replacement behavior, to teach replacement behavior while taking away the challenging behavior. Next one, the first two one is more of a proactive approach, which is to prevent things from happening. But when it happens, what to do? When it's already happened, what you have to do is disengage with the child. Do not provide them the item, that's for sure, and leave them for a few minutes, because again, when the behavior is happening, you're trying to talk it out, you're trying to get mad at the kid, you're trying to talk to solve the problem wouldn't help. They're doing that behavior, so you might want to leave them for a few minutes or until they calm down, then only repeat the cycle. You approach them and prompt them, guide them, teach them of the behavior that you expect them to engage with. If you expect them to request properly, mom, can I have iPad for 10 more minutes? Then teach them that if they're verbal. If they're not, then you can reward them with iPad once they are calm and they can just maybe get your attention, tap your hand, so you can just give them the iPad. And again, when they engage in the behavior that you expect them to engage in, reinforce them. How to reinforce them is easy in this case because they really want the iPad. So the iPad is the reinforcer for sure. So give them more iPad time if they engage in correct behavior. Next one, we're moving on with Abu. Okay, Abu hits his peers, call teacher's name, hit his table when his teacher asked him to solve a math problem in front of the class. Now that's a bit more information on Abu's situation compared to Joe. So if you're already familiar with ABC, you probably can see already the pattern here, what is A, what is B, and what is C. But I'll break it down for you so we can do it together. So antecedent is when the teacher asks Abu, please solve question 1 on the blackboard. It's just a request to do something. And Abu start to hit his friend, call teacher's name, and hit his table. So there's a whole chunk of behavior. There's 3 behavior if you can see actually. And what's the consequence? Things that happen after Abu hit his friend, called teacher's name, and hit his table. Teacher just move on to other student to solve the question. So this, again, if you can see, it will teach Abu that it's okay if he doesn't want to solve problem, math problem. He can just hit his friend, call teacher's name, hit his table, and he'll be fine. He won't have to answer the math question. So from there, we can definitely see it's actually an escape function behavior, which means Abu do all this behavior just to get away from solving question on the blackboard. Now, when escape happen, it's not just that. You have to understand it could be because Abu don't know the math question. It probably very hard for him, or he has been doing that for many times, or maybe the first time he does it, he was laughed at his friend, or his friend laughed at him when he answered wrongly. So it's very important to understand this. Uh, but from this short situation, you can understand that it's escape. He doesn't want to do the work, and teacher let him get away from that. So teachers, the consequence, the teacher's reaction will teach Abu that it's okay to behave that way, to do those challenging behavior to get away from doing that math problem on the blackboard. So what are some strategies that can be used for this kind of behavior, for escape-menting behavior? Again, when we're about to move to the strategies, it's definitely you have to think first what skills or behavior that you expect Abu to engage in. What do you how do you expect Abu to react when the teachers say, Abu, please solve the problem on the blackboard? Do you expect Abu to just walk straight away, take the chalk and answer on the blackboard, or you think it's appropriate for Abu to just say, no, I don't want to, uh, or it's fine if he just like keep quiet, well, not engaging in problem behavior, he just keep quiet, ignoring teacher's request. So you have to think about that first before tailoring a whole chunk of intervention that really works for the kid. So escape, ideally, the best replacement behavior to teach the kid is to request for a break or to delay the demand. As for Abu's case, we can teach him to say, I don't understand this question, can I not do it? Or can I do it later? So we have to teach Abu to communicate, to ask for those things. Or you can teach Abu to tolerate to try a simple question first, then building up to harder question on math. If the problem is it does not have the skill to do mathematics, and again, of course, to equip Abu with skills that will help him. For example, it's definitely if he needs help in mathematics that will help him in the future. Together with teaching him to request for break or to delay the demand. Like I said, it can definitely to cope with escape behavior. If that behavior still happen, what to do? You have to follow through with the demand. To not so that the kid does not get used to communicate that they don't want to do this work by just doing certain behavior. So it's important to follow through the demand, or if it's too hard for the kids, lower the demand, but the demand still have to be there. Again, video schedule is to prepare them like what question next, or maybe for Abu's teacher, she can just tell him, Abu, after your friend Joe and Mira, it's your turn, all right? So Abu can prepare, and the question is already on the board, so Abu can prepare ahead. And our third example is Mira. So Mira playing alone. When playing alone, Mira throws her toys out of the room towards her mother and start yelling. Her mother then grabbed the toys that she threw and nags at her. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about what might be the function of this behavior. please take note of important things that is in a situation like she's playing alone, mother is probably not in the room. When she throw the toys out of the room, the mother come and nag at her. I'm just gonna give you a few seconds to think about that. Okay, all right. So it's clear that the antecedent, what happened before Mira threw the toys outside of the room. Well, she was playing alone, mom outside of the room. She was playing, and then the behavior is she throws the toy outside of the room towards her mother. She starts throwing toys. So the consequence is mom collect the toy, come to her and next to her. It's pretty clear that the function of this behavior is attention. She wants to get her mother's attention, but not by what we deem as appropriate, which is she can just call her mother's name or she can just go to the mother to get attention. But instead, she throw the toy and then the mom come and scold her. Mind you, attention does not have to be positive interaction to be considered as attention. The mother go and scold her is enough to consider as attention that Mira needs. So before we move on to strategies again, think what skill or behavior that you think Mira should do instead of throwing the toys. She wants to get attention, so what skill should she have? So I would say what I'm thinking about right now, she has to be able to ask for attention, request for attention. That is by calling out the mother's name. If you go for calling out the mother's name, mind you, it may be appropriate for your household, for your house rule, it may be okay, it may be appropriate for you, but is it appropriate when she's in school? If she stay in the classroom and she wants to get teachers' attention, is it appropriate for her to just shout the teacher's name from afar? So you might consider the next behavior, which is go to that person, tap that person on the shoulder, or call their name in a closer proximity. So it's not a shout or a yell. So after we think that, then we can move on. One of the way to cope with attention maintained behavior is to give them attention non-contingently. What does this mean is, without any demand from them that they want attention, you straight away give them attention. You give them attention that you think they would need, give them attention before they request for it. So this will prevent them from engaging in behavior that for them to request your attention. Next is definitely your replacement behavior, the one that you already think about, teach her how to get attention, appropriate way to get attention. Uh, like I said, it can be calling out her mother's name from afar, but is if you think deeper into it, is it appropriate if she does that to other people? If she does that in other environment? So teach her how to get attention, maybe from go to the mother and say, "Mom, can you come and play with me?" So if the kid is verbal, if the kid is non-verbal, you can definitely teach them to use pats or to use gesture to get your attention. To you can just tap on your shoulder to get your attention. Next is consequence of when the behavior already happened. You might want to use the first strategy, which is ignore that behavior. When we are already through the toy, what the mother should do is ignore that behavior first, let everything calm down, and then prompt her, guide her, and teach her to request for attention appropriately, like the mother expected her uh, to do. So once she engage in correct behavior, you can reinforce them by giving full attention, and you may also want to increase the level and intensity of the attention that you give her when she engaged in correct behavior. And like I said, you gotta ignore the problem when the problem behavior occurs. If you attend to it, then you fall for why the behavior happened. So you will just reinforce the problem behavior again and again and again and again. So the way to approach this, I understand, is very alluring to just nag at them, just be angry at them, but they wanted attention. By giving such attention, it will definitely maintain that problem behavior. So ignore the problem behavior, take the toy that she threw, let her calm down, and then approach her, tell her to ask for your attention, then give back the toys, and then engage with the kids. And our final example is Ken. And as you can see, he's biting his hand. So Ken bites his hand throughout the day when he is just doing his daily activity. Now, if you think or if you remember about the fourth function of a behavior, which automatic reinforcement, it might give you an easy answer to this situation. What is the function of Ken's behavior? So he bites his hand throughout the day when he is just doing his daily activity. So antecedent is he's just doing his own thing. There's no demand in the antecedent. Nothing is taken away from him. There's no attention is given to him or not given to him. He's just alone doing his own stuff, and then he bites his hand. There's no consequence. There's no changes in the environment. There's no mom does not come in, or the task is not removed from him. So what is the function of the behavior? It is automatic reinforcement. Again, it's quite easy to identify this one when it's not tangible, when it's not escape maintained behavior, and when it's not attention maintained behavior, then it is automatic. The kid does it because they feel good. It could be it gives the sensory input that they need. Most often, automatic reinforcement behavior is what you might know as stimming. They flap their hand, or they bite their hand, they scratch they peel the skin. So again, it won't be challenging until the three characteristics disrupt the environment. It causes them to be excluded from a part of an environment or relationship. Also, it causes harm. And in this case, biting hand definitely causes harm to Ken. So we need to find out what can we do about this one. Again, it's hard. Like this one, I put, what skill should you replace? It's hard to teach a skill that to cope with a biting hand. What you can do is replace biting hand with biting something else that is provide stimulation through appropriate activities. So it gives the same feeling that they feel when they bite, or when they hum, or when they sing, or when they scripting. So it's to provide same stimulation. And if it's appropriate, for example, like Ken, he bites his hand. So when you do ABC chart, you already understand when it's going to happen, in what situation it happened, with who usually the behavior happens, where is that person is when the behavior happens. It might give you a chance to block when it's about to happen, because it is harmful for the kid to keep on biting his hand. So if you do ABC chart and you identify, oh, Ken only bite his hand when he wakes up in the morning getting ready to school. So you might take some preventive measure to block the hand biting at this time of the day. And thirdly, it is unfair to just remove something that give them sensation. For example, biting hand, it could give them the tactile sensory input in their mouth. So to take that away means to not replace it with something else. There's a high chance that they will bite, if not themselves, they'll bite someone else, or they will bite onto furnitures or something. It can escalate into different kind of behavior, and you don't want this to happen. So you can allow them allow access to activity or things that provide the same input or simulation. So that's the end of my sharing for today.
Hi, Sam. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome.
All right. For those who joined, do you all have any question for Sam, Miss Shamira to answer? All right. So at the moment, we don't have any question. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, uh, Sam, and it's quite helpful that you provide example as well as some strategies. Okay, we have a question. Uh, okay. Miss Kimberly, you can just type out the question, yeah? So we can ask Miss Shamira about it. So yeah, it's good that you share, provide an example as well as the example of challenging behaviors and the strategies. And then also a reminder to those who join us today, um, uh, some of these strategy that share, it requires some practicing. So it can be hard at first, like what Shamira shared about if you have seen the ABC model, you look at the trigger and you know what's the behavior and then what are the follow through, which is consequences, which can determine uh, increase of a behavior or reduce. All right. Okay. I want to ask if my girl throw things when parents talking, is it just to create our attention?
All right. A good question that actually already give you attention problems. So attention is very quite obvious when they want attention. Like you said, honestly, we would want more information on the situation, and maybe Miss Kimberly can do ABC like we already suggested. If the pattern continuously, like she throws stuff when
Sorry, Sam.
yes.
Can you bring out the APC slide so when
Yeah,
you
all
explain?
right, just a moment. Wait, let me just share my screen. Okay, let me just go back to the attention one. Okay, this one. This one, she threw twice or practically basically almost the same like Miss Kimberly's daughter. She throws when parent is talking. So to we cannot straight away say it's attention. We have to still do this whole understanding the pattern of the behavior. If it consistently for example mom is talking on the phone, the kid throw, is it throw something?
Yeah.
Yes, throw something, and then the consequence is mom stop talking and then attend to the kid, then we can say it's attention. If it happen repeatedly the same way, we can reduce its attention. So talking,
Yeah, talking on phone face to face also like that. And sometimes
yes.
she will scream.
Yes, if it's repeatedly, if after seeing this the behavior for some time and after doing this ABC, and the consequence is always the same, means mom always react the same way, stop talking and then go to the kid and give attention, then we can say that it's attention maintained behavior.
Okay. Okay, Sam. What if it is not attention? Uh,
It's definitely what to pay attention of there is, like I said, what is the kid doing when the mom is talking on the phone? Is he not doing anything? If the situation is she's not doing anything, and suddenly mom talking on the phone, and then the consequence is mom stop talking on the phone and then give attention, then that's attention. If it would be different if she's playing alone and then suddenly hear mom talk on the phone, and then consequent is mom stop talking on the phone and give her the phone. Then it could be that she wants the phone. Then it will be a different function altogether. That would be she just want phone. So it will be a different strategy to cope with that behavior. But if the consequence is consistently mom stop talking on the phone and give attention to her, then it could be attention. And mind you, attention does not have to be verbal. For as long as you look at her or you attend to her or you tell her like go away, that could be enough attention that she wants.
okay. And
Yes.
then Miss Kimberly also added that, but after stop talking, then she'll stop crying.
Yes, then with that information we can simply say is attention, because after stop talking then she stopped crying. Yes, it's quite obvious in this situation because it's quite straightforward.
Because if every time I with her, then suddenly got people talk with me, then she'll behave like that.
Yes, like it's very clear for even for attention maintain behavior, the strategy actually can be used for any individuals, because if you this one, show this one. So at first you may try to give her attention beforehand. Like I said, it could be that she has been playing the whole day alone, and when you talk, that's when she finds chance to get your attention. So providing her with whole lot of attention beforehand might prevent that situation. I said might because it might not work. It might work and it might not work. Uh, and then maybe teach her appropriately how to tell you to stop talking or to get your attention at that moment when you talk with other people. Uh, so when she engaged in this correct behavior, give her all attention she wants. Praise her because she tried to get your attention correctly, or even spend more time with her because she already asked for your attention correctly. Mind you, when you try to teach replacement behavior, or when the behavior is happening, you will have to ignore it so she does not learn that she can get your attention by screaming each time you talk on the phone. So ignoring it, there's a whole lot of process to it. Ignoring it means you will see an increase in that problem behavior before it goes down again. So you will have to go through a moment where she will scream more, she will cry more, but you will have to ignore. That will happen before she learn that she can scream as loud as she wants, she can cry as loud as she wants. She won't get the attention unless she requests it nicely.
Okay. So basically the suggestion is one, when that behavior happen, crying when talking, then we immediately stop the talking and attend to her. Okay,
Yeah.
so another suggestion is we can choose to continue talking and then ignore her behavior.
Yes.
And then there's also by ignoring it, will increase her behavior, but we still continue ignoring it. And then we only give attention when the child stops uh, crying or asks for attention nicely. So
Right.
there's two suggestions there.
Mhm.
Okay, and then Miss Kimberly also asked like how to explain to her.
How to explain to her? This is a very subjective question because it's depending on her level of understanding what you tell, her age. So the explanation needs to be age appropriate. I would say the easiest is to use a visual that we use for other behavior. Is definitely can use visual. Maybe like mom talk to dad first, then that might work to show her the like her turn to get attention is coming.
Mhm.
So that might help to understand that she will get the attention. She just need to wait. Also in this we understand that she will have to learn to wait for her turn. So that's the skill that you might want to look into.
All right, so in terms of explaining, if we choose to use verbal, it has to be age appropriate, meaning that
Yes.
the level of understanding, it depends on how much she's able to understand. So another way we can do it is by providing a visual or like something like a picture in sequence, like mommy, daddy talk first, then only after that is your turn. So it also sort of like allow the kids to practice turn taking. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. And also from the slide here that Ms. Shamila had shared, if you look at the attention part, there's few things that we have discussed. Give attention non-contingently, replacement behavior, how to teach how to get attention, okay, or by requesting. Okay, another one is increased level of intensity of attention when child uses correct behavior. So this is an example that uh, we've seen quite a lot. When the kids did something wrong, we tend to give a very big reaction. We increase
Yes.
our voice, we start shouting, but we don't do the same when they behave uh,
Correctly. Okay.
appropriately or correctly. For example, when the child able to sit down and eat nicely without making a mess, our reaction is small as compared to when the child start playing with the food. So we can see that the level of attention is not balanced. Okay, and lastly, we talk about ignore when problem behavior occurs. But ignoring uh, parents or teachers that are doing ignoring, like what we have discussed, you have to be prepared for more. The child might be looking for more attention. I mean, more behavior will come out. It's a term that, in terms of behavior, is called extinction burst. They will try their any way to get the attention. So if you choose to do ignore, you have to be consistent as well as be patient. So for example, if the child start throwing, you ignore, but we control the things that they throw. We remove anything that can cause harm to him or to other people or the surrounding until they come to you and talk nicely or request for your attention appropriately. Okay, and another question, and for girl keep biting finger, can this be improved?
Can it be improved? Yes, it can, depending on what you expect of how it improve. Do you want her to not bite her finger at all? And again, to achieve this goal, you have to understand why. Why is she biting? So if she's biting for to get your attention, doing all the attention strategies might improve or lessen the frequency of her biting her finger. So after all, you will have to go back to understanding why it happened first. But to answer your question, can it be improved? Yes, it can. Or is it like steaming?
Yeah.
So yeah, again, to understand, is it steaming or what's the function? You have to see the context, when she's doing it, why she's doing it. Is it doing it for your attention, or is it doing it to get something? If it is for stimming, like this kid, like I said, automatic reinforcement, I would say, is the hardest behavior function to change, because it simply, they do it because it gives them some feeling, they feel good physically, or it takes away some feeling from them. For example, they may bite when they're anxious. So biting it will make them more calm. Or when biting, it gives some sensation to their mouth. So to to cope with this behavior, what you have to do is quite tricky in this one, because it's depending on kid. I put it this way, yeah, Charlie. It's like you like to eat sushi and I try to stop you from that. I will have to find something that you like just as much as you like sushi. So that's how hard it is. So to find something that this kid will like just as much as it gives them the sensory input when they bite their finger or hand, is just as tricky. So what you can do is, definitely biting finger is not appropriate, and it's even harmful for them if they keep on biting. So you can provide them with a tool that they can bite on, just to give them the same sensation. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I do agree with Miss Shamira. Biting fingers is something that it's quite tricky, because some kids use it to calm themselves. Some kids just bite for the sake of biting. So it's quite tricky, because we're not sure which one, and it will be even trickier if the kids couldn't tell you why they bite. Okay. We have one question. Teen wants attention. When we go to him, he asks to go and melt down.
Teen want attention, but when we go to him, he asks us to go away
Then melt down.
and melt down. So we're sure that he wants attention.
And then also, as an add-on, if do not provide any attention, they may break things or hit or bite.
So again, we need to understand if the kid is verbal, because if we don't provide, sorry, I'm not clear about the question. If not attention, then maybe break things, hit or bite. So he wants attention, but then say no to that attention. But if the father or the caregiver ignore, he will throw things or bite. Is that the question? Do I get it right?
Non-verbal, by the way. The child is
Okay.
non-verbal.
She's poison. Non-verbal. If biting to get attention, definitely you have to, first of all, definitely need to block that behavior. You should keep on biting her hand when the behavior is about to happen, and you identify what time of the day it will happen, where it will happen. Then definitely need to block first, because I think it's at until the point where they have to put ointment on the wound. So that's the very first step. The next one is yeah, it takes time to make them understand that they have to behave appropriately to get attention. So like Charlie already said, we have to also be aware of our behavior, in which when they are doing good stuff, they're just being on their own, being very calm. That's when we observe ourselves not giving them attention, because, oh, they're fine. But in this situation, it's best when they are doing very good stuff, then shower them with a lot of attention, versus when they show all this behavior.
Yeah. Also, yes, ignore if when you do this ABC, if the consequences work in a way that if you ignore your teenager able to calm down, no throwing things, then this is something that you have to practice repeatedly, because that's where the child will learn that, okay, if I calm down, then my parents will give me attention. So if I start throwing things, they will not give me the attention that I want. Yes. That's why when Ms. Shamila share in the previous slide that sometimes this kind of intervention or this kind, we have to practice repeatedly. Why? Because we have to let them understand. Sometimes by explaining, we can't really like it takes some time, but if we practice this whenever the behavior is out and our consequences is the same and it helps to reduce the behavior, then uh, that's where the child able to learn. For example, this alternative of biting finger, because at the moment, uh, 4 years old, how to give alternative to bite. So this is where we, to be honest, we would like to do trial and error. We have to find something that, like what Miss Shamira said, if explaining she doesn't understand, then we have to find replacement, something that can replace biting finger. Okay. While biting also, we have to, biting other things, we have to also, like what Miss Shamira shared, that the consequences, our behavior, how should we pay attention? If she is not biting finger, we reward her. If this works, then we can proceed. It's something that our parents have to work out and then find what are uh, the things that you can replace for her to bite. As of the throwing things coming, throwing things and meltdown. So by looking at the child, if it's a teenager, non-verbal, uh, by this time, you should be almost able to read his behavior. So for example, if the child wants something, since it's non-verbal, they will use their gesture. If they don't get it, then the behavior will come out. Okay, and then it really depends on how the parents' reaction. If there's a punishment, then maybe there's reduce in behavior. But if you do punishment, the behavior is still there, then we have to change our style of dealing with the child because we tried once, tried twice, punishment doesn't work, so it won't. Yes, I do agree. Imagine us not as a teenager or child, regardless you have autism or not. Whenever we are angry, we find it hard to listen to others. So we just need some time to calm down. Okay, it's a yeah. I mean, for us adult, sometimes when I'm not in a good mood, I won't be listening to others as well. So same goes to children when they are throwing tantrum or they are crying or they are angry. We just need to give some space, and then that's where the consequences come in. Okay, we give them some space is already a consequences. So from there you can see by giving them space, if the behavior reduce, then we're going to maintain that consequences. If it doesn't reduce, then what we can do. So it's really depending on how the child react and how the parents react. So you work in a team. Something increased, something have to be reduced. If something is reduced, you can see it's increased or reduced. So it's vice versa. So yeah, so if children, even adults, sometimes when we don't feel like listening to other person, we take some time to calm down. So if we apply this to children with special needs like autism, it will definitely take longer because for the receptive is very much affected. The understanding, they can be 16 years old, but their understanding age could be at about 7 or 8 years old. So there's a big gap. So the child may look like a teenager, but the understanding is way below. So this is where we have to do a lot of things in terms of behavior, how we can promote. And then provided that if the child or the teenager is not able to express verbally or cannot talk, this is where we have to do more. Like what Ms. Shamira just now explained, you can do picture, visual to show. the child. Okay, like what we're gonna do next, what's next, we're gonna do this first, and then what's next. So there's a sequence in picture that you can show if explaining doesn't work. If explaining work, you can also increase by doing picture so that the child understand both through visually and verbally. So like like what Shamira has reminded all of us before when she started her workshop that uh, some of this strategy it worked, but it just requires patience from parents because it might take uh, some time and it can be tiring sometimes because you have to repeatedly doing it consistently and repeatedly, and then it also requires trial and error. Okay, and you have to observe what are the triggers, what are the behavior, and what are the consequences. How can we maintain or reduce? Because behavior, like anyone who practice in terms of behaviorism or know a lot about behavior, behavior can be one of mode of communication. Okay, sometimes like the kids unable to express, they do through action. So that's where we can roughly see how the kids behave. Like uh, the child eat lemon, doesn't like lemon, start crying. So we know that maybe they cannot explain the taste of a lemon. Okay, but we obviously when cry, then we know through crying is a behavior. So we know that okay, lemon and crying. So there's a relationship there. So that's how actually uh, we can relate. And also Miss Shamira has shared some of the example of like throwing things, attention. So when we practice this ADC, we also want to know the expectation of the parent. What do you want, and what are the function of this behavior? Because sometimes when your expectation is too high for the kids to achieve, can also lead to some behavior. Okay, for example, uh, my child might have, for example, my child is not very good with arts and craft, but I keep sending my child to arts and craft class. So eventually, uh, the behavior also will come out. So he or she are likely not to go to that class or cry before the class. So we have to understand uh, our own expectation on the child as well as why is this child behaving like this. So from there, parents and children work together. So some of the cases where require behavior therapists, that's where parents and therapists work together to understand the child, and the therapist can show some of the techniques during the session. So that's the reason why we have a behavior therapist in providing behavior therapy for children who have challenging behaviors. Okay, some like bite until there's a biting mark, some crying that can cry for hours. This is where we require to bring in a professional to come in and work with the parents. All right, is there any other questions? Okay. So we are already towards the end of the workshop. If you still have any question, feel free to post at the comment, and then we can get back to you. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and thank you, Ms. Shamira, for sharing your experience uh, and shared uh, experience and knowledge about challenging behavior with children with autism. All right. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you in the next workshop.
Thank you.